the whole journey. If you are part of the journey, from the setting of objectives, and we'll be looking at that shortly on how to set objectives. If you're part of that, then it makes you to be more of a participant in the same than just an executor. So it'll be part and parcel of the whole process. And therefore, even accounting for the results will not be a challenge to you, because you've been part of the whole process. You know what sort of challenges do you expect and how well you can navigate that. So that becomes the second principle. The third principle, it's more likely to achieve desired results when more focus is laid on results on a time scale. That we are more likely to achieve desired results when there is focus laid on results on a time scale. So we have what we need to achieve, when, and by who. So once we have that clarity in our mind, then it's more likely that we'll achieve the desired results and within a time frame. And we'll be looking at that major concept of SMART. When we talk about SMART objectives, why do we have T at the end? Because everything must be within a timeline. In most cases, we don't achieve our targets because some of them are a bit vague when it comes to timeline, where you say you'll do this, but then the question is by when? So that we're able now to hold you accountable. The fourth principle is that it is only possible to measure progress in terms of what one is trying to make progress towards. And as I said, let us not confuse movement with progress. We may appear so busy. We may appear to be doing everything. We may appear up and down. But the question is, what is that you are achieving? I've had cases whereby I have employees who seem so busy. Every time they have so many things that they're doing on their desk. But one time I asked them, if I ask you at the end of today, just give me 2 things that you've achieved. They didn't have it. They told me, oh, this one is almost complete, this one is almost complete, this one is at this stage, this one is at the initial stage. I told them, can we be deliberate? Let's be deliberate when it comes to what is it that I'm able to achieve. At the end of the day, can you say that there's something that you've closed on, or there's something that you've done? Instead of holding it, doing it 40% of it, then you move again to another something else, 20%, 30%. At the end of it, you've been so busy, but you cannot be accountable for anything. So it's very, very instrumental that imperative that we are able now to clearly measure progress. It could be incremental, but let us always ensure that we measure progress, because that progress is where it takes us towards a particular direction. One of these small milestones that we need to achieve that will enable us now to move to or to achieve our vision. You cannot just wake up and get your vision. You must have the small steps towards that. You must achieve some, we call them as celebrating a few milestones. So from these milestones, collectively, they'll lead you now to the next level. That's the essence of, it's only possible to measure progress in terms of what one is trying to make progress towards. Okay? So those are the 4 basic principles. So for us to ensure that MBO is well articulated, then we must be cognizant of these 4 principles. Very, very, very imperative. Then there's this video on management by objective. See, maybe I'll play it later on. Now let's look at objective setting. Objective setting, and we are looking at SMART objectives in MBO. So look at that diagram. You have the inner circle, that's the blue. Then we have the green. So if you look at what is contained in the blue, we are saying that in the MBO, it is crucial to define the performance objectives, as it can be very useful to define the performance expectations. What are the objectives of this performance aspect? Then what are the expectations? So that's what is at the core of this. Then on the other side, now we are looking at objectives that's what comes in the greener side. Objectives which are written down and are verifiable can be far more useful if they are smart in nature. And I think the concept of smart is not something new to you. It's a very familiar concept. What has always been the challenge is, well, we know what it is, but then to what extent do we execute it? To what extent do we ensure that we work towards conforming to it in all our objectives? We fail in what we do because we've not holistically taken SMART as a component of any of our execution of objectives. So we need to ensure that when we write them down, we're able to verify and be sure that this is what we ought to do. By having that clarity, then we avoid any of the confusions that can arise out of this. So when you're doing this objective setting, those are the two components, or those are the two aspects that we need to ask ourselves those questions. Now, what does the acronym SMART stand for? I know this one is S is specific, measurable. I think everyone thinks about it. But have we ever sat down and looked at the objectives at the organization and say, okay, is this specific? Is it measurable? Is it attainable? Is it relevant? Is it time bound? Have you ever had any discussion with your supervisor? When you're looking at your appraisal, as you set your targets, have you ever sat down and ensured that these are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time bound? I know there are questions that there's another organization which I received a request that their staff or their supervisors, they need training on what? On objective setting. Then the question was, how have they been appraising people? Yet they have not been trained on it. And I could see that that's now a problem, that through their appraisal process, which is not objective, that's where now it translates into people also feeling dissatisfied with the whole process. And ultimately, you find that people complain about the whole process and all that. So at times, it's good to identify the source of the problem, because if I'm becoming a supervisor, some of the trainings I need to undergo is the aspect of appraisal. How do I measure performance? Otherwise, if I don't do that, I'll come with my mentality, the way I was appraised by my senior. I'll maybe take the same approach to appraise other people. And maybe it could be wrong, it could be right. But then the question is, do I have the necessary knowledge? Do I have the necessary competency to do that? So that's where now this SMART comes in. At times, it has become a cliche, but the question I usually ask people is, can you just sit down and look at your appraisal? Look at the various sections of your appraisal and ask yourself, to what extent are these SMART? Once you do that, then you'll find that your process of appraisal will be as smooth as a flow of water. So you need to ensure that you have that in place. So when we talk about specific, we'll look at each one of them, the measurable one, the attainable, how relevant, sometimes we call it realistic, and also time bound as we set the objectives. So many organizations set smarter goals and objectives through the formal process of management by objectives. And this MBO leads to an organized and a systematic approach of defining organizational goals and realizing them within the available resources. So you define them and realize them within the available resources. That's one of the most important components of the same. So the main aim of this approach is to improve organizational performance by aligning the organizational goals with individual objectives at all levels and attaining those goals within prescribed time frame. At all levels, and also ensuring that you attain these goals within the time frame. That's the essence of aligning. You know, when you align, means you are not in conflict with what the organization is looking at. You may not be moving this direction, then your counterpart is moving the other direction. Where you are picking your movement towards south, yet people are supposed to move towards east. Neither will you be moving towards west, yet other people are moving towards south or north. So we must look at If the bearing is south, are we all aligned towards south? If this year, for example, we are looking at reducing, as part of the key objective of the organization is to minimize costs, then at our own level of performance as James, for example, what contribution do I have towards reduction of cost? Maybe in my operational aspects, I'll be looking at the most effective way of, cost-effective way of getting things done. We may not now have to use the most expensive things to do. We may not have maybe to do things the way we used to them, but we're looking at more innovative ways that can work towards maybe minimizing the cost. So that could be an aspect of aligning. So aligning means you are looking at individual level, how is my objective setting resonating with the objective setting of the business or the goal of the business, so that I'm not here spending more, or I'm not here engaging in activities that will make the expenditure to remain as it is currently, or even go higher. Yet at the top level, we are talking about the business minimizing on cost. So that's the kind of alignment that we are looking at. You may, let's say a department, you may not look at, you may not go on and recruit more people, yet the budget talks about retraining and restructuring, because that way then you'll be conflicting with the main business objective. So ideally, when we are looking at alignment, then we are looking at ensuring that everything that we're doing, whatever is from the top level, is cascaded down to the individual level. Meaning you want to feel that. You want to feel that. You've had, in most cases, generally in the economy or politics, people say that the government came up with a policy on maybe reduction of prices in certain products, but they have not felt it. Meaning, it has not been aligned. We're only talking at it at the top level, at the national level, but when it comes to the lower level, we don't feel it. We don't feel it. So that aspect of not feeling that effect is because there is no alignment. We don't see it cascaded. Because I'll expect some reduction in the cost of certain products if generally that decision has been taken at the national level. So the whole concept of that national level to individuals is the same concept that we apply in the organization to the staff or to the employees. So we look at that cascading aspect. If cascading does not get fulfilled, that's where we say there is misalignment, or there is no integration between what the company is speaking and what is happening within the organization. That means the reality is actually the opposite of what is being preached. That's the essence of understanding the aspect of cascading. So then we need to look at how is this system ensuring that there's continuous monitoring and feedback for improving quality of the outcome. Our main drive should be, how is this continuous monitoring enhanced? If you set the objectives, yes, you've put them in place, you've embedded the people are now working towards it. How do we monitor and give feedback so that we are now able to achieve what we call performance management? Because management is continuously. You're not looking at it as an appraisal. When people ask, when do you do appraisals? Some of you will say quarterly, others will say half yearly, others will say yearly. Meaning, according to most, or the conventional aspect of an appraisal is that it's an event, one-off. So as you move towards that, people become so cautious about the appraisal. They even change their character, they change their behavior just because they know the appraisal is next month. But we need to move away from that aspect of making the appraisal to look like it's a one-off event and adopt constant monitoring. Constant monitoring will automatically feed into the appraisal without necessarily having it to appear like it's an event. It will be something that is just a continuous, but you're only now documenting the periodical achievement by then. But you're not looking at it as an event that people have to now to plan and come and defend themselves as if they're going to court. No. Let it be a process that enhances continuous feedback and continuous improvement, so that throughout, we're just looking at how you've moved from point A to point B. We look at how you've developed yourself, the self-development. What is that you've done? We look at the different indicators that you're being measured against. To what extent have you achieved them? To what extent do you still need? What else is left so that you're able now to achieve that? So the question here, what does the letter M in acronym SMART stand for? Of course, that is what? Measurable. The other question is, so the questions are over now. So let's look at each one of this classification of objectives under the following. So we have work objectives, we have targets, we have tasks, we have behavior parameters, we have values, we have performance improvement, and we have developmental objectives. So we look at each one of them. Now, what is a work objective? So work objectives are the key result areas in the role profile of an employee, which are not only explaining what has to be done, but also why a job has to be done. For example, respond proactively to customer complaints and queries for maximizing customer satisfaction. That could be a work objective. So if you are a customer engagement staff or customer experience staff, then one of your key result areas will be responding proactively to customer complaints and queries for maximizing customer satisfaction. That's how now we are now in the process of setting objectives. And for us to set objectives, as I've said, we are guided by these 7 areas: work objectives, the targets, the tasks, behavior parameters, values, performance improvement, and developmental objectives. So the first one is our work objectives, and we said this is basically the key result area, okay, which now defines what you have to do and also why a job has to be done. So why are you handling these queries? So that you enhance maximum customer satisfaction. So effective work objectives clearly define an activity in terms of the results or standards which are to be accomplished. For example, an organization for transforming itself into growth organization aligns the key result areas with the corporate strategy at all levels in its performance management module. If you look at transforming yourself into growth organization, you're looking at growth levels. So you need to identify what are these growth aspects. You want to grow in your market share. You want to grow in your financial growth. We're just looking at the top line. Are you just looking at the top line that you are going to get? Are you looking at growth in terms of maybe diversification of the services or the sub products and all that? So all that is what you're saying. It becomes an underlying factor when it comes to what are the key results areas that the corporate strategy is cascaded at all levels within the performance management module. So the organization rewards and provides career growth opportunities to those employees who perform well in their jobs. In this way, it's able now to manage the performance of its employees by focusing on work objectives or the result areas. Take an example. If you're able now to enhance customer satisfaction, then as you're doing that, the business will get repeat clients, it will get satisfied clients, and therefore that will enhance profitability. Or if it's a service industry, you're just looking at satisfaction, and that will automatically translate into what? Loyalty. Okay. So looking at this case, then we are looking at this organization. Does it now reward people for the sake of what they have been able to achieve? Next are the targets. Targets are goals that are intended to be attained and which are believed to be attainable. What is intended to be attained and which are believed to be attainable. So my target, let's say my target is to achieve, maybe in terms of profitability, I say I have an allocation of 5 million for the year. So ensure that I achieve 5 million from the sale of my products up to that point of, so that will be my target. So, and these targets, as we said, when we are setting them, they are part of the process. So let us set them after we've also assessed what is the level of attainability, because remember we have said, and which are believed to be attainable. Let us not put a figure that is more of a dream and we expect it to be attained, because dreams will just remain dreams if we don't have clear goals on what sort of achievement are we going to put in place, so that collectively it will make us to get to that target. Therefore, targets are the results which can be measured in quantifiable terms such as output, income, cost reduction, service delivered, customers, and sales volumes. Okay, those are now the targets. So targets are measurable in quantifiable terms. So let's move to tasks or projects. So a task is any piece of work that is undertaken or attempted. A project is a planned undertaking of the completing any piece of work. Therefore, tasks or projects are objectives which carry a deadline and should be fulfilled within a specified time frame or can be completed in phases. So you're looking at which tasks can be attained within that period of time or in phases. Behavioral parameters. These are also a very imperative area, very imperative. Now, behavioral parameters are normally set up within the competency framework, which are identified as desirable and undesirable behaviors, which may be useful in the process of performance planning and reviewing. Behavioral performance. The behavior aspects, when you look at people being trustworthy, and to look at people being honest, we're looking at people who are dependable and all that. So you're looking at the behavior patterns. For example, some organizations may lay great emphasis on recruiting only those candidates who display high degree of ability to learn, and at the same time possesses special competencies like analytical skills, communication skills, and problem-solving skills. Greater emphasis on recruiting only candidates who display high degree of ability to learn, and at the same time possess special competencies like analytical skills, communication skills, and problem-solving skills. Those are now the behavioral. So I hope there is we're clear on behavioral patterns, so that whenever you are outlining them within your appraisal, then it's clear and you can always enhance understanding of it from that level of discussion between yourself and your supervisor, or you and the peer, or you and the team that you are leading. Next, we have values. A value is an ideal that is accepted by some individual, group, or organizations. Most organizations have their own values. They have their own philosophies. What are our values? Customer-centric. What are our values? Professionalism. What are our values? Integrity and all that. So you're looking at things that are acceptable by the individual, by the group, and by the organization. So the objective may be to drive all the efforts of the employees and the management team for upholding the core values of the company. For example, an organization follows the values of maximizing employee satisfaction or promoting customer satisfaction. So if you're looking at customer satisfaction and employee satisfaction, that becomes your value. So every time, that's what you breathe in people. That's what you breathe in your staff and tell them. We must always ensure that our people are satisfied. We must ensure that the customers are satisfied. And that's where you've had different companies holding this premise. Some of them will be saying that for us, employee first, customer second. Others will say that customer first, employee second. So all those, both of them are driven by a particular direction. But they're saying, if I want to go to Ngara, for example, I want to go to Nakuru, how do I go to Nakuru? Do I use the main highway? Can I go through Maimahiu? Can I go through Thika and all that? So at the end of it, my destination is Nakuru. But the question is, how do I get there? What is the most effective and efficient way towards Nakuru? That's what brings in the issue of value. So if our value is maximizing employee satisfaction, then that means, according to us, if an employee is satisfied, automatically that will spill over to the customer. The customer will also be satisfied because they're interacting with a satisfied employee. A satisfied employee will go an extra mile in meeting the needs of the customer. Okay. At the same time, a customer that is satisfied will also interact very professionally and cordially with an employee. So that way, then it brings in that mutual benefit for both employee and an employer. Now, that's what informs values. I know different organizations have different values, but I want to challenge you. Look at your organization and ask yourself, out of the list of those values that you have, which ones do you think you breathe and live? So that when we visit you, when we ask you, you will say, for us, okay, you've achieved customer satisfaction. We are always achieving that. For us, it's about professionalism. When you come to us, the way we interact with people, the way we handle their issues is with utmost professionalism. That's a question I wish to throw to you people, so that we would like to see to what extent do you promote that. And next aspect of objective setting is performance improvement. Now, performance improvement aims at realization of an improved performance by directing all attention towards achieving better results. That means all the effort is synchronized into achieving better results. And that's why we call it performance improvement. At times I ask people, why do you carry out performance management? They'll give me so many results. They'll give me so many responses. But the ultimate one is we do that because we want to improve performance. Anytime we carry out performance management, the main goal is to improve performance. By improving performance means that even if today I'm the top person, it doesn't mean that I've reached the what you call satisfaction. But you find that from there, I'll also chart now more targets. I'll come up with more targets. I'll come up with more objectives. I'll also come up with new tasks, which now I'll work towards improvement. So you can't say that once you reach the apex, then that is it. No. And this is what falls into the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know what Maslow's hierarchy of needs talks about? That human beings are in constant search for satisfaction. Ask yourself, why do you have these billionaires, trillionaires in the world? Have they stopped generating money? Have they stopped running businesses? No, they have not. Why? Because upon a realization that you are a billionaire, now you want to move to the next level, which is trillionaire. Upon trillionaire, you want to look at where have I invested, where have I not invested. So collectively, then it makes human beings to be in constant search for satisfaction. So at no point can we always stand up and say, no, I'm satisfied, I don't need money. I'm satisfied, I've achieved what I need to achieve. Unless if somebody can tell me here and say that for me, I've reached satisfaction level. So it's all about now relaxing and looking at how things are working. I don't think that's the situation, because every human being, I think it's by nature that human beings are in constant search for satisfaction. They're always looking for better things. They're always being challenged. And that's why when I ask you today, the phone that you bought, the first phone you bought is not the same phone you have today. If you look back at the kind of dress code you used to have, it's not the same dress code today. Why? Because as things change, as dynamics change, both social, economic, political, technological, we also change with that. We also adapt that kind of change. We also embrace that change. As we embrace that change, that means our needs keep on shifting. Our needs keep on changing. And we must always keep pace of this kind of change. Right, so the objective of this performance improvement plan is of the employees, which describe what steps or measures can be jointly adopted by the managers and the employee for optimal performance. What sort of efforts do we need to put in place for optimal performance? For example, an organization may aim at improving the performance of its employees by providing them appropriate training for handling the requirements of the job challenges, compensating them favorably, and keeping them motivated for winning their loyalty. That could be just an example. That the organization decides that we have a good training policy for our staff. So that means that's one way of compensating for you for what you've done. We ensure that you attend trainings at the expense of the organization. And as we do that, then we're enhancing your capacity. You've seen companies that provide training for their staff. Those staff will always be looking forward for the trainings. And as they look forward for the trainings, it's what makes them to feel part and parcel of the organization. So they become more loyal to the organization. Now, the last bit of objective setting is developmental objectives. And these are highlighted in personal development plans and include diverse areas of development for an employee, which can also be a part of enhancement of the skills and knowledge at different levels of performance. So you're looking at what sort of these development plans are you able to look at that can develop your competencies. I know some of us who are HR professionals, maybe you're logging in for this because one, you're driven by the development objective. It's part of your personal development plan. And maybe this personal development plan is part of your appraisal. So you want to, as you move towards the appraisal, you want also to have documentation to show that you attended this training, which was part of the initial stage of objective setting. So you might be doing it because of that. Others will be doing it because they just want to enhance their skills and knowledge levels of the employee. I know in most forums, people have always been asking that we have a challenge with appraisal. We have a challenge because the CEO, the way he or she handles the appraisal process is not professional. We have some other senior managers who don't understand the whole procedure and all that. So how do we deal with these areas? Now that calls for developmental approach. We need to also have a developmental approach in terms of enhancing. Let me see, I think I can see a chart here. Okay, good. I think there's a comment from Rose on ensuring that we align the objectives to those of the person and the organization. So as I was saying, the development objectives are the ones that will make people or these individuals not only just to develop their skills, but also to have a lot of vast knowledge on how to handle some of these areas. Like the example I was giving, that if you have people who don't understand how to carry out the process, they also need now to have an objective under development, where you can specifically identify a training and say, these people need to undergo this training as part of their development or personal development plans. And that you'll actually monitor it and also within the time frame. And at the end of it, you need to document and say, well, we had identified this as your personal development plan. To what extent have you achieved this? Why are you not engaging in this? Because ultimately it's also affecting the other people that you're working together. So these are the main areas when you are setting your appraisals. I think it would be very significant if you're able to ask yourself, what are the work objectives in this appraisal? What are the targets? What are the tasks? What are the behavior parameters? What are the values? What are the performance improvement areas? And what are the developmental objectives? This becomes a guiding principle for you to, when you're determining that, because it informs your better way of managing this objective. There's a question from Christine who says, how do you ensure you get proper objectives for staff who handle routine jobs, especially those in support roles, e.g. driver? How do you ensure that you set proper objectives for staff who handle routine jobs, especially those in support roles, e.g. the driver? There's a question from Christine. Well, Christine, on this, when you're looking at routine jobs, in fact, are the easiest when it comes to managing. But what has been the challenge is you are not able to use the SMART. I think before we took a break, I was asking the question that every time look at the appraisal for your staff and ask, does each of these indicators meet the threshold of SMART? Is it specific? Okay. One is it specific? Then you look at, is it measurable? Is it realistic? Is it time bound? So that way, then even these routine jobs, you are now able to actually capture them properly. But I think in most cases, these routine jobs are just delivering letters, doing this. But now you don't have clear timelines on by when. Or if you're talking about delivery of letters, let's just take an example of that. If you're to make it an objective, then you must say that you need to have what? You need to have an inventory so that you're able now to look at the inventory. If you have this inventory and if the letters are being delivered, then you have a clear structure of when they need to be delivered and when do you need to get the report. If that to be delivered every Tuesday, every Wednesday, or every Monday, then what is this driver supposed to do? If it's about a driver, for example, when it comes to routine, let's say just reporting structure admin, do they follow the right procedure if they are to deliver or to transport certain roles? Do they have the right documentation? Do they provide the right information at what time? If the driver is to come back and maybe make sure that they park the car at the right place, they're supposed to do that. Who do they report to? Will just come and drive the car, leave it there and leave. So we need to have some clarity on how well do you also monitor these routine jobs so that when you monitor that and you have clear reporting line, then it becomes easy to monitor that. So that's maybe that would be my response to Christine on how do you set objectives for staff who handle routine jobs, especially those in support roles, e.g. the driver. Good. All right, so then we have developmental objectives. I think I've mentioned that. Then we move to the next one. For example, an organization may use training and development as a continuous process for developing competencies for employees and invest in both in-house training programs and development programs. You can have in-house training programs and development programs. I know some companies have had a challenge of in-house training programs because when they organize these in-house training programs, they organize them because it's a formality, but they don't organize in-house training programs specifically to address a particular need for staff. So you call a training on time management and you lump everybody there, or mentorship, then you're putting everyone there, and it's a virtual training. At the end of it, people just log in, they'll listen to the speaker, and then they go away. When you ask on which trainings you've undertaken as a HR, you'll say, we've been able to carry out a training on time management, we've done a training on mentorship. But then, how did you measure? Have you established? Did you even evaluate whether the training objectives were met? Have you monitored now from the time before training and after training? Have you realized any difference in terms of time management with these people? Is it embedded in their structure also? So that also we are not doing just introducing processes or trainings because they are part of our calendar. That's the challenge that I normally throw into professional, that let's do something not because it's supposed to be done, but with the purpose. Why are we doing this training? Not just because we need to do it, but we are doing it because we want to enhance efficiency, we want to enhance understanding among people on certain matters that are not very clear to them. Now, this brings me to the next, or what we call real life examples. And these are examples drawn from different companies globally and what they do. And it just informs now you to look at it and look at your organization and feel, does it resonate with any of your companies? So now that you've understood the various categories of how objectives can be classified, especially from from the 7 areas, then I want you to look at the following objectives that have been defined in various organizations and try to identify the type of objective. 1, GE uses training and development as a continuous process for developing competencies of the employees and invests in both in-house programs and development programs. Besides this, the company also, as it sponsors its employees for MBA course in reputed organizations. Can you identify the type of objective defined by this organization? So which objective is this by GE? Anyone? This is a quick one. Sometimes we call it a quick fire question. Which category does this objective fall into, used by GE? Anybody? Let me see a chat here. Developmental objective. Thank you, Monica. Anybody else? Monica says developmental objective. Okay, so the answer is developmental objective. Let's move to the next one. Yeah, Christine also says developmental, correct. Okay. Next one. So this objective highlighted as plans to increase diverse areas of development for an employee, which can help them to achieve that. Now, another company. Oh, Rose Mteshi. Rose has raised her hand. Rose. Yes, Rose. I see your hand is up. Okay. Looks like Rose raised her hand, but she's not able to hear us. Let me see. Okay. Monica, behavioral parameters. That's for Apple. Apple lays great emphasis on recruiting only those candidates who display high degree of ability to learn and at the same time possess special competence like analytical skills, communication skills, and problem skills. I can see the response from Monica there says that's behavioral parameter. Mary says values. Okay, let's keep giving the comments. Can use the chat section for the comments. What do you think this objective of Apple falls under? What category? Under what category? Is it values? Is it targets? Is it objectives? Is it tasks, behavioral, performance, improvement, development objective? Those are the categories. So just trying to identify which, as we look at each of the objectives, then under what classification does each one of them fall? So we already done with GE. Now we are on Apple. And Apple, I think the responses are coming in. We have Mary Kinya says values, Rose says behavioral, Daniel says behavioral. Thank you. Last one, so that we decide which one it is about Apple. Okay, so for Apple, I think the answer is behavioral. Because we are looking at the ability to learn, maybe the ability to respond, the ability to be adaptive. Sometimes when you apply for jobs, they'll say, this job requires somebody who has the ability to do what? To work under pressure and all that. So you go to the interview and you say, yes, I'm able to work under pressure. 1 month down the line, you say this work is just too pressuring. I cannot manage the pressure. So the question is, did you believe in what you said? Or you thought the pressure is just waking up in the morning? Or was it specifically to the kind of targets that you ought to achieve? So thank you very much. Let's move to the next example. Let me see, I think there's a chat here. Ross Muteshi, task objectives which are supposed to be simple and clear for them to understand with ease and perform their duties. I think task objectives which are supposed to be simple and clear for for them to understand with ease and perform their duties. Rose, are you referring to these? I think Rose is giving us an additional aspect where she's saying that these are task objectives. From this category. Rose, are they task objectives or their behavioral parameters? Let me just take you here briefly. Tasks, things that have to be done within a time frame and completed within phases or something like that. Then compared to behavioral patterns, which are saying recruiting only candidates who display high degree of ability to learn and all that. So I think then that gives us the answer. I was just doing it for clarity purposes so that we also aligned to the discussion. So on April, then the answer is behavioral pattern or parameters, which are set within the competence framework, which identify the desirable and undesirable behaviors, which may be useful in the process of performing, planning, and reviewing. Another company, FedEx, is the value of maximizing employee satisfaction for promoting customer satisfaction. Value of maximizing employee satisfaction for promoting customer satisfaction. So, ladies and gentlemen, can you identify the type of objective defined by this organization? Can you identify this objective identified by FedEx or being promoted by FedEx? Any response on that? Which category does it fall into? Which category does FedEx fall into? Okay, I can see a response here from Rose Macau says values. Thank you, Rose. Monica says values. Thank you. Anyone else to finish on that? Values, Daniel. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Daniel. Okay, so I think we are in agreement that if you look at maximizing employee satisfaction for promoting customer satisfaction, then we are looking at value. We said there are so many values. That's why I was asking you in your organization, what values do you think resonate with what you do? And I said we have so many values. Some people will say our company is customer centric. Others will say ours is about integrity. Ours is about professionalism. Ours is about competency. We call it what technological advancement and all that. Others will say ours is about ensuring that we are honest, we are fair, we are just, and all that. So that can be under values as FedEx company. Let me see. I think there's a chat here. Yes, Rose also says values. Thank you. Thank you, Rose. Good. So the answer is values. It's an ideal that is accepted by some individual, group, or organizations, and maybe to drive all efforts of the employees and management team to uphold the core values of the company. Good. Another company, Southwest Airlines, aims at the performance of employees by providing them appropriate training for handling the requirements of job challenges, compensating them favorably, and keeping them motivated by winning their loyalty. Okay, Southwest Airlines aims at improving performance of its employees by providing them appropriate training for handling the requirements of job challenges, compensating them favorably, and keeping them motivated for winning their loyalty. Let's keep the responses coming. Under what category does that objective fall? Okay, performance improvement. Daniel says performance improvement. Maybe that's the first response. Let's keep the responses coming. Let's keep the responses. Let's keep the responses coming. Mary Kenya developmental. Anybody else? Performance improvement from Rose. Okay. Well, okay, Rose Muteshi also says performance improvement. Okay. Right. So Southwest Airlines aims at improving performance of employees by providing appropriate training for handling the requirements of job challenges. Remember, the purpose of appropriate training is to do what? To handle job challenges, compensate them favorably, and keeping them motivated for winning their loyalty. So your answer is performance improvement because you're looking at the skill, ability, performance, and potential. The objective of performance improvement is improved performance by directing all attention towards achieving better results. This is highlighted in performance improvement plan for the employees, which describe what steps or measures can jointly be adopted by managers and employees for an optimal performance. Another company, Tata Steel, is transforming itself into a growth organization, aligns the key results areas with the corporate strategy at all levels in its performance management module. The organization rewards and provides career growth opportunities to those employees who perform their jobs well. So, ladies and gentlemen, what category does Tata Steel, which aims at transforming itself into a growth organization, aligns the key result areas with the corporate strategy at all levels in its performance management module? And the organization rewards and provides career growth opportunities to those employees who perform their jobs. Can you identify? Can you identify? Can you identify? What is this? I'm looking at the charts. Can you identify? I think I scrolled that one wrongly. Already this work objective. So that one I will not ask so many because Monica, thank you, Monica. Work objective, because those are key result areas. I think there's also another response here from Daniel. Thank you, Daniel. Work objective, thank you. Good. So the organization rewards and provides career growth opportunities to those employees who perform well in their jobs. In this way, the organization manages the performance of its employees by focusing on work objectives or the key result areas. Google identified virtualization of their server environment as one of the key cost reduction initiatives across the enterprises. It has embraced cloud-oriented services with its Google Apps, App Engine, and extensive business services for cost reduction. Can you identify the type of objective defined by this organization? Maybe once more, Google has identified virtualization of their server environment as one of the key cost reduction initiatives across the enterprises. It has embraced cloud-oriented services with Google App Engine, and extensive business services for cost reduction. So what sort of business objective is this? What business objective are we talking about here? Work objective. Thank you, Monica. Work objective. Daniel, work objective. Targets. Daniel has two answers, work objectives and targets. Rose has targets. Thank you. So your answer is targets. Thank you. These are goals that are intended to be attained and which are believed to be attainable. And this can be in terms of output, income, cost reduction, service delivered, customers, and sales volumes. Another company, OilServe, is an ingenious oil servicing company. It has set objective of completing its various goals, pipeline projects within the next 20 months, and all is set to meet the deadline. They are set to achieve various gas pipeline projects in the next 20 months, and all is set to meet the deadline. Question: can you identify that objective? Task and projects. That's from Rose. Task and project from Rose. Keep the responses coming. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Oil Service, Engineers Oil Servicing Company. It has set objective of completing its various gas pipeline projects within the next 20 months and is all set to meet the deadline. Task and project, that's Mary. Thank you, Mary. Daniel, task and project, thank you. Good, 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 good. Thank you. Task and projects. The piece of work to be attempted within a period of time. So the task and project is the correct answer. So which of the following is an ideal that is acceptable by some individual, group, or organization? There's another response here, task and projects from Rose Muteshi. Thank you, Rose. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so I think that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Unless if there are any questions. If there are any questions, if there are no questions, then we meet again tomorrow, same time for the part 2 of management by objectives.